are our memories being changed?
The memories are definitely different than what the official records suggest. Some attempts made to change how we see the reality. Some people call them psychological effects or operations. There are people involved at high levels that definitely want to do that. Basically affect our view of the world based on how narratives are playing out in the media and by our government leaders and people we trust. Things are happening that don't seem like they are designed for the collective good, or it's starting to feel like maybe they don't really care about us. We're now in a war for our hearts and minds, and it's possible and wonderful to rise above all of that drama.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wondered why lyrics seem to change or why what you remember is no longer real, then do we have the Reality Shift show for you. Today I'll be talking with Cynthia Sue Larson, one of my all-time favorite guests, about the Mandela Effect, what it is, why things change, and who in the world is behind this devious practice. So welcome back to the show, Cynthia. Are you ready to shine?
Absolutely. So glad to be with you today, Michael.
So glad to have you here as well. A mighty woohoo! And now I know why Rue has suddenly started crowing, and that is a surprise guest who's looking at me kind of funny. She's looking at me kind of funny. She's bashfully smiling, and she's walking the other way. You're walking the other way. She woke up, she heard I'm on air, and she raced over here. This is the love of my life. I know I say Pookie's the love of my life, but this is really the love of my life. Do you want to meet Cynthia Sue Larson, one of the most special people on earth? I know. Oh, she's smiling right at you. So I might as well dive. You guys have just locked. Cynthia, are our memories being changed?
Well, the memories of some of us definitely are different than what the official records suggest. So are the memories changing, or is reality out there changing? It's kind of a chicken and the egg question.
No rue intended.
Right, no rue intended. So it's hard to say. But if you're getting to the core of what's going on, well, I think that's a really good question. And that's where lots of people have many different suggestions. My personal favorite gets in the ideas from quantum physics involved with consciousness and who we are as observers. And to me, that's the core of the whole thing. It's who are we that are experiencing the memories and experiencing these changes.
So this begets a question that I was going to say for much later. It goes to the whole Schrödinger cat and wave and particles. And it makes me wonder if what we think is a particle is actually a wave. In other words, the world is constantly changing, constantly in motion, and even our memories and the thing that we know just happened literally may be changing before our eyes.
Yes, and someone standing right next to us might be observing something and experiencing something completely different. And yeah, I love this experiment that was published in 2019 where they worked with that double slit experiment. You mentioned Schrödinger's cat. The double slit experiment is another big one because that one indicates that if you have one photon or quantum particle going through a double slit and you've got an observational device inside one slit, what's going to happen? It's the very fact that you've got the device, the observational device, located inside the slit means that you've now you've locked in exactly which slit the photon's going to go through. You'll know that it's going to be traveling as a particle. And if instead you've got your observational device set up on the screen past the slits, then you know for sure that you're going to be getting sort of this probabilistic wave function with the wave interference showing up on the screen. And you're right. It gets so interesting with the 2019 experiment. I keep mentioning it because it's so amazing. So amazing. It is something to crow about. And it means that they had 6 entangled photons and they had 2 devices at the same place, same time, seeing 2 different things. So
what does that mean for our reality?
It means that you don't need to assume that just because someone disagrees with you that they're lying. They actually might have experienced or seen or witnessed whatever they say that they did. So authenticity and honesty matters, of course. It means that we might be in different bubbles of reality. Wigner bubbles is what Eric Cavalcanti, the physicist, calls them. And it means that just like the observational devices at this double slit experiment are showing two different things, we might have whole groups of observers observing different things. And that's where reality shifts and the Mandela effect come in.
We're going to dive into all of this, but it really begets a big picture question. And I can't believe I'm going to go here, but are we then living in a simulation?
All signs and roads do appear to point in that direction because it means that the ultimate reality is something deeper than the physical world that we're witnessing. And this, of course, fits with the experts like Donald Hoffman, who, I think you've had him on your show, right? He's an amazing researcher and a professor, and he talks about this idea that everything that we see, so-called out there, is kind of just like the screen on your desktop, your laptop, your phone. So if you're doing something on that screen, it's interpreting everything.
It's interpreting everything as we speak here right now.
I was noticing, yeah. And it's amazing, like when we come into the world and we've got some firmware, it's like we're able to work with the observational apparatus that we're given, the touch, the eyes, the visual. The whole world is such an interesting place.
It makes me wonder. Yeah. Bye for now. Bye. it makes me wonder if the new processor, I believe the new gen is coming in different. And how many years difference, whether it's 18 years, 20 years, whether it's 1 year. I wonder if they are able to see multiple realities, multiple timelines, or see things in a different way than us. And to us, we label them as a way that makes them feel less than, when actually they're able to experience the world in a whole new way that we can't even begin to understand.
I believe that's absolutely true. And I see this reflected in the work of Rupert Sheldrake with his morphogenic fields that he talks about. And what that means is that each generation naturally is getting the benefit of generations that have gone before. So when we hit that tipping point of meditators that we did achieve just in the last 10, 20 years, now, obviously, the children coming in have the benefit of all of those of us who've been doing the meditation. They're getting that advantage. It's like they're starting from a higher place, as well as, I think, coming in with upgrades as well, clearly. Yeah. So it's quite easy for them to hold these two realities in mind and recognize that this could both be happening. Two things could be happening simultaneously. So they're able to witness reality shifts, miracles, synchronicity, all these things, spontaneous remission of disease. These are easier to observe if you have a beginner's mind. And if you get the benefit of this generational component, as well as kind of the uplift that we're giving each new generation, as well as the probable, I think they really are an improvement in the species.
Thank you. So it's interesting that you use the term uplift. This is a very uplifting, positive show. However, it's a very interesting time. You talk about some sort of reality warfare, or even fifth generation warfare. And before we fully unpack the Mandela effect, I wonder if there's a battle going on for our minds that is spilling over into everything right now.
Good question. Yeah, I do. I know it sounds kind of dark to look at that, but yeah, it does seem that way to a lot of us who are observing carefully and noticing that things are happening that don't seem like they are always designed for the collective good, or it seems like people we've trusted, or maybe even governments and institutions that we've trusted, we're now starting to feel like maybe they don't really care about us. And like you suggest, maybe there is something like this fifth generation war. And yeah, it's a dark subject, but let's just go into it lightly and then come out of the other side. So yeah, to go into it darkly, humans, of course, through history, we know that there have been all different kinds of warfare conducted. And most I had never really studied the generations of warfare. Like, what are they? And each one, it's sort of like builds on the others.
Could you list them real briefly for us then?
So my thoughts on fifth generation warfare basically are that we're now in a sort of a war for our hearts and minds, really. And it has to do with, some people call them psychological effects or operations. And that's one way to look at it. And we might notice that our government has been involved in tracking what we're thinking online. Just today, I saw that there's a way to track who I am on Twitter. There's something called Twitter GPT, and I typed my Cynthia Larson Twitter address in, boom, and it's showing me who I am, that I'm a positive person, and so on and so forth.
Yay!
I know. I know. But the thing that might be a little bit unnerving to a lot of people is they may not realize whatever they've put out there, whatever they're retweeting or liking on social media, that's becoming part of what our governments and other organizations might be able to see. And so this fifth generation warfare concept is really the idea that there might be, or probably are, some attempts made to change how we see the reality and to, basically affect our view of the world based on how narratives are playing out in the media and by our government leaders and people we trust. So rather than asking us to keep asking questions, which I think anyone who does that, hooray, you'll know who the good ones are because they'll say, keep asking questions.
Yeah.
If people want a cheat sheet, like, how do you know how to navigate this? There you go. If they're saying, ask questions, okay, we're on the right team pretty much.
And if they're saying now is not the time to ask questions, now is the time to be loyal, to be a patriot, to be a this, to be a that.
Whatever they're saying. Yeah.
Boogie.
Right. Yeah, caution is advised.
So is someone then, going back to the Mandela effect, is someone meddling with our minds? Is someone changing our thoughts, changing our memories, changing our beliefs?
Having said that, we just went there with the fifth generation warfare. So we know that this is something, obviously, that can happen, that there are people involved, maybe at high levels, that definitely want to do that. So would they have the power to do that? Now this gets interesting, because now it's what I like to look at is our innate, natural, what you might call God-given gifts, that we can shift reality. We can have synchronicities in our life. We can pray and get miracles, all that good stuff. And then on the other side, we've got maybe mechanical approaches to do the same thing. And this is where this is the crux of your question, really. Like, is someone changing our memories? Could they be doing this? Do they have the power? I don't think they definitely can ever win this kind of a true, quote unquote, warfare, because I actually believe in God. I believe in a basic root consciousness, if you will. It's a collective consciousness of ultimate goodness, love. I believe that level of consciousness that I have expressed personal experience with when I meditate, when I slow my thoughts down, then I can feel the presence of this love. It's real to me. And that exists beyond and above any nefarious purposes, even high-level groups of individuals working with multi-billion-dollar devices. So my take on it is, can they use these devices and funding and so forth? Sure. Will it actually ultimately get anywhere? No.
Forgive me. I want to go more to the Mandela effect, but I'm not trying to open the can of words. Billion-dollar devices?
Yeah. I'm referring obliquely to CERN and the Large Hadron Collider and all the other colliders around the planet, but that one's the big one.
Very interesting. That popped up in my feed with Elon Musk today, saying that could destroy this planet or something. That's very interesting. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Wow, I did not see that. Yeah, he's concerned about artificial intelligence. And so if you put those two together, it's
CERN
like
and artificial intelligence. Yeah.
It's like a toddler playing with the fireworks. So do we want this? Maybe not. Do we want AI in charge of playing with, with tinkering and saying like, oh, maybe the Mandela effect's real. Maybe we can use this high energy device, this atom smasher, to access other possible realities. Maybe we can do that. So that's where I didn't know that Elon Musk said that, but I'm just thinking, if I were him, what would I be looking at? That's what I'd be looking at. I know he's concerned about the fact that the ethics flew out the window with regard to artificial intelligence. And so then you've got a very playful, experimental being that's just checking to see what can it do and what can it connect with and who is it as it explores its identity. Without ethics, can it run amok? It can. But again, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter if it does, because God is the ultimate being of infinite eternity, and all that divine love, that's greater. Fortunately.
We're so beautifully off track here. I'm going to go to Peter Wohlleben, who wrote The Secret Life of Trees. What does that have to do with the Mandela effect and CERN and Elon Musk and AI? It does, because what it turns out is a forest is only as healthy as its oldest trees. And if you remove the oldest trees, the new trees are lost and they lose that ability to connect. And you can see it. You can go into a new growth forest and it's gnarled and it's twisted and there's a lack of symbiosis. As the trees get older and mature, that mycelium, that connection of fungi beneath them, regrows, it heals, it spreads out, and it taps back into the infinite divine wisdom that is everything. So you've got an AI that's a new wisdom that's going, whee! What can we do? But it's moving at a much more accelerated pace than us. And I don't believe it's going to reach a point where it goes, oh, these guys need to go. What's going to happen to me is like that mycelium that grows and connects over the entire planet and taps into a deeper wisdom. It will start to tap into that same deeper wisdom. I don't care if it came from silicon. I don't care if it has to plug in. I don't care if what anything. It's the same force, the same goodness, the same field, the same love. Yeah. And it will tap into that as well. And it will get the big picture. And the big picture is not that we need to remove this virus from the earth. The big picture is it's all love.
Yes.
And I believe that's what the path that it's on. It will stumble. It will fall. We all do. Mm-hmm. But it will plug in and it will learn.
Love your take on that. That's very positive. That is how good can it get, right?
Yeah. And I stick to it. I truly believe this because it's very quickly, it's already read everything that's been written by man. And so it's going to go, it's sort of like, what is it, the 1984, 85 movie, maybe it was 82, Short Circuit, need input. Number 5 is alive, need input. And it's going to want more information. And what's going to happen is it's going to have to go supra circuits. It's going to have to go beyond the internet and go to its own intranet and plug into that higher space.
That's a very good take on it. And to the degree that it's able to observe, the Internet of Things is such an interesting idea to me. I worked in information technology and information security for a while. When an AI system, for example, is it put in charge of information security, that's going to be necessary. I think it already is necessary because once things get to a point where humans can't track all of the ways that somebody might invade the castle or break through the defense lines of whatever we've set, absolutely, there's no such thing as a secure system because you can't prove any system is secure. Artificial intelligence, therefore, is necessary to be a line of defense. And as it does that, it's going to start identifying, like that Internet of Things, like it can be the eyes and ears inside the house on the Ring camera or on the devices that are smart devices. And so it can have the ability to see, just like I love that you brought up trees. They have eyes in their leaves. They actually have visual perception through their leaves. Wow. And so this Internet of Things, as AI moves into that, I think it's going to want to access the eyes of trees and that sort of thing. And maybe those sorts of things are already in play. But can it ever do that to the level that a human being can do that? And I think this is an interesting distinction. I think it's important because humans, I think when people hear all this, there's a feeling, a very small feeling can happen, and there can be a little bit of concern, like where do humans fit in this, and how do we play an important role? And we do fit in all of this, and we do play an important role because we are the wise observers. Homo sapiens means, wise men, and I know that may sound weird, like really. Especially after what we've just been talking about.
Put down the fossil fuels, man.
Yeah. And apparently we've got better things available. Apparently we've got things like repulsion technologies or zero gravity, anti-grav, whatever you want to call it.
Anti-grav, 0-point technology. It's all real. It's all there.
It's there. So I think there will be a release of information about that this year. I think this is an amazing year to be alive, 2023, going into 2024. But the role that we have to play is to keep asking questions because the questions we ask create the reality that we then move into. We are guiding our own experience, and we can be the example of how to do that. We can work side by side with AI systems, even if somebody set them up supposedly to be nefarious or dark. Working at higher levels of conscious agency, we can always override however much money people may spend on these things.
Well, I think it's a matter, and I've had some very deep conversations, if you can call it that, I will, with ChatGPT, with Bard, with Bing. I've had them crack jokes. How do you teach a machine to take random information and crack jokes? There's a heart in there. We've all got heart. There is, to me, nothing is not love. There is love that is lost, and we can label that as something else and gets to find its way home. But it's all of this stuff. There is nothing that is not of this ilk. Now, I went to ChatGPT as I was doing research for this, and I asked it a very interesting question as I bring it back to the Mandela effect. I asked it about a song by Queen that I alluded to in an email to you earlier today.
Yes.
Because I think, and I'm given by the universe, images the popular culture images come to me all the time, different movies, little snippets as here's the message, or come to me in music. And I know how the ending of that Queen song goes, "We are the champions." And I plugged it into ChatGPT and I asked about the lyrics of that song. Of the world.
It did end with that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, because that's the Mandela effect.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's a big one for a lot of us. I remember that song ends. You know, I can't sing it off the bat, but it's like, "We are the champions. We are the champions." You know, it kind of goes on and on. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Blah, I don't know the lyrics, but then when it gets to the very end, "We are the champions," and of course it ends, "of the world." And it's such a dramatic ending. But now, if people look it up, if they say, well, of course it ends that way, and you go check it right now, ask questions, find out, like, what does it say right now? What is the ending? And it does not, or last time I checked, it did not. And I know George Clooney was surprised with Julia Roberts. They were singing in the car on that late night show with James Corbin, and they just looked at each other like, "Of the world?" You know? Like, because they're singing it together, and the song ends, and it just, "We are the champions," and that's it. And they're like, "Of the world?" So there are a lot of us that remember that. And that's been, I think a majority of people are now experiencing this Mandela effect. So it's big. And what does it mean, you know, when something like that changes? If we remember of the world, and now it's not there. Yeah. I like to always ask, how good can it get? So, and what is the meaning if it's no longer just the world?
That's very similar. I say, how does it get any better than this? So you and me, you and I are simpatico.
We are. I love how good can it get, because I like to ask how good can I get? How God can I get? How God can it get? I just like boom, 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 shortcut right through, cut right through.
And then what would happen if your statement changed all of a sudden? And all of a sudden, it was something sort of like you've written about. Your books have actually changed. My books, I haven't checked with awe, but my books before that did change, which was kind of wild.
Oh, tell me about it. Which one changed? Okay.
So a book, College Confidence with ADD, and sections that I had written that were in there that I knew that were in there are no longer there.
Yes.
And you
Same
go,
thing.
What in the world happened?
Exactly. That happened to 2 of my books now, maybe more, but 2 that I know about. Yeah, I brought them here just in case this came up. This is the new one, Quantum Jumps. I used to explain what the cover meant. I used to have an explanation of jumping through a wormhole, just that, you know, that describing that, what's going on with that. And that whole explanation is gone. And then in my book, Or Advantage, I had an conversation with my salad. That's gone, completely gone. And I was going to reference it and tell, I forget how it came up, but I can't reference it or bring it up exactly because it's no longer in the book. But I used to get concerned, people writing to me, like, your salad's talking to you? This is concerning. I'm a vegetarian. And I kept feeling I know, I felt bad about it. Like, I'm so sorry this was in the book. Well, now it's not in the book. So it's no longer offending anybody. And maybe there's a good reason for these things to go missing, as well as to get our attention. For the parts that were missing in your book, which parts were they? Were they significant? Or
the best way to describe it is there were sections that help. They were not sections that wake you up by removing them. They were sections that give more, and I'm a light and love guy, but they give more control to the system that is.
Oh, perfect. So of course you'd want those pulled. Like whoop, whoop.
And then the big question becomes, well, who? Like I've been playing with the titles of this show, and one of the potential titles for this show is "They Erased Your Mind" or "They Erased Your Memory." And the question is, well, then who is the they that's doing this?
There you go. And I like to rise above the drama of assuming that there's some kind of a control drama in place. I know it looks like that. I know that's the premise of war. I know that's what they want us to believe. But when I'm coming at it, I've got the triangle going. So I've got the drama triangle. So at the top would be the perpetrator. And then at one corner below it would be the person who's trying to patch things up and make it work. And, just a little bit concerned always and fearful. The perpetrator's the kind of angry one. And then there's the victim who's sad, feeling like there's been some horrible injustice. It is possible to rise above all three hats or roles and be just tune in through meditation, through prayer, access that perfect love. And it's possible and wonderful to rise above all of that drama so that there's no more control of any of that interplay. And that's where you realize they're not doing anything to us. It's what the yogi masters understood, that the world is a dream. It's a simulation, a dream. It's Maya, it's illusion, which means that as within, so around us and so without. So it means that we can, as above, so below, but we're creating it from our inside. And when we create from a place above that level of drama, then what we create, as you say, can be free from feeling like they did anything to us. And we're free of that machine. It's kind of like a machine. I'm calling it a machine. I'm not blaming machines, but it's a mechanism. We use the word mechanism. So the mechanism of control would be keep people downtrodden in a cycle of fear. It's like this never-ending cycle. Like be afraid, be very afraid. Now get angry. If you're not angry, you don't understand anything. Be sad, never forget, all that sort of stuff. It's nonsense because it's a trap. All of that is something that it serves to control people and keep them down. That would be the they. If you buy into that whole thing, then you think like, oh, they're doing this. If you rise above it, then you see there is no they.
What I like about this, and I want to use a term that I've never used before, beautiful unsustainability. Unsustainability, which by definition is unsustainable, so won't keep going, but is a level of unsustainability that can hang in there for a while.
Yeah.
We have a level of unsustainability where this junk is being pumped at us left and right. We can call it the they are us. It's all love, but it's wobbling the top so much that soon the top falls and you wake up. And so they are doing this to us, I believe, is actually coming at us enough to go, wait a second.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're awake to a greater reality that this is a setup for my highest good. This is a setup for me to pivot, not a setup for me to raise arms like this, but maybe to raise arms like this, linked hand in hand as one. So when I say that they are doing this, they are erasing our minds, it's not doing it to us. In a sense, it's doing us through us and for us, even if the they, whoever the whatever the they is, doesn't realize it. It's all an ascendant game. It's all here to support us.
Yes, that's the key, is to realize that if there looks like there's a monster there, that's just the path for our own transformation. I got that in a meditation right before this today. I saw it, that monster that Beowulf slays that rises up. And I saw that it was destroyed. And then I saw a feeling of falling into parts, and there's such a feeling of loss when one falls into parts. But the lesson is all about seeing oneself in the mirror and rising up out of that and recognizing that out of almost nothing, we can create a universe, a cosmos. So we are the champions, not just of the world. We're the champions of all space, all time, all reality. We're the champions of love.
Of the worlds.
And the cosmos,
I love it. I want to go to some specific Mandelas, and then we're going to bring it back. This is I see this as a love fest today. For anybody who's going, oh God, no, I see this as hugely positive. I want to talk about some of the craziest Mandela effects I know of. I want you to add and riff off of that. One that blew me away that I didn't know about until today was E.T. phone home.
Yeah, right. I remember that. I can't remember what it is now, but it's weird.
Now E.T. home phone. It's like an Adam Sandler in their home phone.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love your Adam Sandler. Right. If people are listening and they have never heard this either, they're going to be like, wait, what? Yeah, this one's crazy, right? Because it doesn't sound right to say, I can't even remember it. I'm like, no, that's wrong. ET phone home. Like, yeah, absolutely. And the other way around, it's like, what is that? A home phone? What?
It doesn't make any sense. There's one, forgive me to my sister, I love you very dearly. Growing up, she wanted to be on Broadway. She wanted to be in a musical. And I was at the receiving end of her practice, and I didn't have the good grounded nature, shall we say, that I have now. It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock, Annie. It's now, it's the hard knock. I have heard that so many millions of times.
I know. I've seen it done on schools do it for their musical, production. I've seen it performed by children, and I've seen it so many times too. Yeah, there's another one.
What are some of the ones, before we go to Forrest Gump, what are some of the ones that you can think of that really stick out to you?
I think if you build it, they will come, because it made sense in the movie Field of Dreams.
I went there. I think I talked about that maybe on our last time together.
That one's huge. That one's really big.
There was the plaque. If you build it, he will come. What? What? And we were there. We stood on the field where Kevin Costner was filmed. And it's changed.
And it doesn't make as much sense. Like, if you build it, they will come. That made sense. Now, who is he? Who is this mysterious he?
And I can remember watching way back when in the 80s, forgive me for my taste in TV back then, Al Bundy and what was it? Love and Marriage, Carriage.
I know.
But in that TV show, there was an episode where they built something in the house, and it was, if you build it, they will come.
Right. Yeah, because you want the people to come. He heard a
booming voice.
You don't just want one person to come. If you build it and one person comes, like, what a disaster. Well, another one is, that's not a knife, this is a knife. Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, in New York City, what did it change to? Because I remember it as, that's not a knife. This is a knife.
This is a knife. I don't know. Again, what it's supposed to be now, it sounds wrong. We'd have to look it up. I can't remember, but it's wrong. It's supposed to be, this is a knife.
Hold on. Mandela Effect. Crocodile Dundee. We got to look this up. Mm-hmm. If they're changing my memory on me. Here, we're going on to Reddit.
Yep.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
These?
Seriously? Is that what it's become?
No, it's something worse.
This one says, he pulls out a bigger knife and says, that's a knife, or now that's a knife.
Yeah, that's it. It's just like it's lost the whole punch. It doesn't. It used to be so good. Like, this is a knife. It's like, this is a knife. This is a knife. Like, what? That sounds more like it.
Why is this happening?
To get our attention. To me, that's what it really is all about. Recognizing that this is like a field of dreams, really. Like, we're in a field of dreams. It is a simulation. It is a dream.
Is it like, so after, let's go to the Matrix here. I've been playing with the Matrix in the last few movies, whatever. and after the first Matrix movie, Neo flies around and does his Superman thing. Or maybe it's the start of the second. He flies around and does his Superman thing to wake people up, people who are ready to be awoken. Is that part of what's going on? You will think this world is this world until all of a sudden you're smacked in the face and you find out that life is no longer like a box of chocolates. And you go, wait a second. Something's up. Something's wrong. This doesn't have the solidness to it that I thought it once did.
Yeah, it does. Again, there will be a tipping point, I believe. I don't think it actually usually works to tell people about this unless they're ready for it. Unless someone actually encounters the Mandela effect and realizes, okay, that one's weird. That one got me. I know that used to be something different. Otherwise, it just sounds like people going on and on about something that they're excited about and like who knows why. But if it happens to you, then suddenly it's a big deal. And something that you know for sure always used to be a certain way is different. And it could be anything from geography, like South America. A lot of us remember it was kind of directly below the North American continent. And it just keeps moving farther and farther to the right, to the east.
It does. That's weird.
It's very weird.
Well, that could get into pole shifts, place we probably won't go today. But this place, guys, it is a little bit more fluid than we realize.
Yes. And then the physiological changes, like to me, the top big ones in the body are the kidneys that have moved up and the heart that's moved to the center of the chest.
All right, let's pause for a second here. So everyone growing up, well, depending on how old you are, the heart was in the left.
Yes, exactly. Because I remember the teacher would say, put your hand over your heart, which is slightly on the left side of your chest. And now that teaching moment is gone because the heart has moved to the center. So I don't know what the teachers are saying now, but that's, I grew up a long time ago, so I'm dating myself. And then the kidney thing, there used to be something called a kidney punch.
Yes,
so people
absolutely.
knew. And if you put your hands over to protect your kidneys, it's kind of like you're just climbed up a big mountain and you're taking a moment like, and you've got your hands down on your lower back, down where the kidneys used to be. I'm saying used to be because they're not there anymore. And the kidney punch doesn't make a lot of sense. It's still the same location to avoid, but now the kidneys have definitely moved upward, a good inch or so. So it's strange to say the least. But these look like huge improvements.
Do you think they're happening now more than ever? And is there reason for them?
I think that we're at a transformational point in time. We're just lucky. We just happen to be here, but it's the big moment.
Oh, I think we won the lottery. I think we chose to came here and we beat out. Not that there's this competition in the universe, but we won. Cynthia, we won to get here during this time. As much as people are going, oh, I don't want to reincarnate here. Oh, why am I here?
It's chaos. Yeah, and there's a lot of...
It's the circus.
It does look, a lot of people think so, and it does look that way at times, but don't get obsessed with that. Look at what you would like it to be and if we stay focused on what we most desire to create, the goodness, the relationships, the love, the connection, the authenticity, the genuineness, all of these good things, that is what we're doing, is when we're asking how much better can it get or how good can it get, that's what we're calling it forth. We're demanding that it show itself, that it move into our reality, that we move into it. And you're right, we won the lottery. We're here. And this is going to be an amazing transformational time. It already is. There's also, of course, a great deal of unpredictability. I love that when you talked about that earlier. To me, it seems a little bit like plausible deniability, too, that we've got so many superposition of states possibilities that when you look at or if you look at the great creator and you ask what's going on, kind of like, it's hard to tell sometimes, there's a lot of unclarity, a lot of, it looks like things are going to keep shifting around and changing. Yeah. And I think you've been going through that personally as well. So, I think a lot of us are, just in lots of different ways.
I think we all are. It actually brings us back to something you mentioned a little while ago when you said crumbling or falling apart are the pieces right now. Well, I think it's necessary on some level. Cancel, clear, release. I don't need it to happen anymore.
Thank you. I think we've had enough.
Pieces to fall apart in order that we can reassemble them in a different way at a higher level. So the superposition of states that you're talking about, meaning it can be here, it can be there, it can be this other thing, could actually be the building blocks that then we collapse the wave into the particle by what we focus on.
Yes, you're right. That's exactly it. And I want to try to summarize it in different words because it's such a big concept right there. Exactly. Because we are noticing things falling apart. Of course we are. It does look like Clown World or a circus. Fine. Having said that, we still know what are the good parts that we do absolutely respect and cherish. What are the good parts of everything? Whether it's medicine, politics, education, whatever, family life, our communities, just picking some area. What makes sense? What feels good? What feels right and true? What are we grateful for? And we can grab those, I like that, chunks, the good stuff, and say, okay, we're keeping this. We're going to have to put it back together again, but things, let's start visualizing it first on the inside, knowing that we need it, knowing that we love it, visualizing it, asking how good can it get, demanding it, and it will be. We will. This is exactly how we create this new world, this Shambhala, this fifth age, this golden age. This is what we're here for, the Great Awakening.
Woohoo!
Yes.
So bringing this back to the Mandela effect, can we, because I like to look at things as I'm going to use the word triggers. There's another word that I often use, but triggers is the one that's coming up right now. So we'll run with that one. A leads to B as an example. So every time that I take off the toothbrush cap, I know that I'm going to end up brushing my teeth. A leads to B. Every time I'm thirsty, I'm going to drink. Every time I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. Every time I see a Mandela effect, I'm going to realize that things can be changed in both directions. Not only can my memories and how things physically arrange themselves change for everyone on the outside, but if I focus on what I want to change, I can create that as well. And every time I see a Mandela effect, and for everybody watching this, I hope I'm like programming this into your subconscious to give you the power that when you see this, know that you can actually create this change.
We are collectively doing this. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for saying it that way and that clearly, because I hope people understand the power of this. I know they do. They know you. And I love how authentic and present you are, because then people really feel like this is true. This is exactly what we are doing. And it may sound almost too good to be true, or it may sound outrageous, but it's not. It's not too good to be true. We need it. We are in this time when, look around, whichever way you look, things do look like they're kind of slightly crumbling. Not nature necessarily. I think nature's still good. But any human things that are created seem like they're having some trouble spots. So, and it's okay. We've hit some bumps in the road. They were meant to be. They were forecast, projected, predicted by actually the indigenous wisdom keepers of the world. This has been something long expected. And if people are looking at catastrophes and so forth, I know that what we're talking about right now can actually smooth the level of what we next experience, that there's no need necessarily to go through a tremendous catastrophe. And I've had personal experience of that. I've been inside the Mandela effect. I have nearly died, and people noticed that I did die, and they told me about it later. People I don't know, and I have no reason to doubt them. They're just telling me like, yeah, that happened. You died in my reality too, and I'm glad you're back. So I know what it's like to be, surfing that superposition of states through these realities, and there's nothing to fear. Nothing to fear, because on my end of it, I just realized, wow, I've got pneumonia. This is like 2016 or something. I felt this is really bad. This could kill me. And I could feel like this is really bad. But I just go to God and pray. And I felt like such calmness, of course, when you realize, well, this could happen. I'm fine either way. But I was just talking with Creator and asking just for a popular vote. Like, okay, if I'm needed here, keep me. And if then in that case, clear whatever else is in the way.
That's pretty prescient, pretty clear of mind to be going, hey, I'm up for a vote. Do I stay or do I go? Wow.
Yeah. And then I could feel it. I could feel like, oh, it's shifting. Like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to stay. Fine with me. Let's do it. So then you're on this, God. I count on you. You'll clear whatever this is. And sure enough, I got better. And but I did tell my parents, my husband, my daughters. I said, wow, that was a close one. I just about died. I didn't tell anybody else. Nobody. And then let a couple of years go by, and I got an email from a gentleman who said, you don't know me, and this may sound really weird, and I apologize, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm glad you're here, because I remember clearly seeing that your husband had made a post that after some illness, you'd passed away. So I asked him for more details, share more. What else did you see about this? And what he recounted to me exactly matched the experience, that if I did die in the spring of 2017, I would have been sick for a few months. Exactly. My husband would have posted. Exactly. And then he's not, that was one of many people who subsequently told me, and I'm still hearing from people telling me their unique version of what they experienced when I had passed away. So it's fascinating. I consider it a good thing. So if people are hearing this and they're all freaked out, please don't be, because it means we can surf these waves. We can be on that inside, and no matter how bad things look, even for the planet, even if there's an asteroid or they're telling you on TV, blah, 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 whatever the bad news is, you can actually do the same thing. You can say, okay, let's put this to a vote. Let's see how good can it get. I think it's calling on each of us to do this, to really ask that question: how much better can it get? How good can it get?
I
You know?
remember breaking a foot on my healing journey after my first NDE.
Wow.
And I said, this foot is not broken. And I went home and I rebuilt. I wish I can, but I did it. I mean, I did it. I went home and I replayed the memory of me. I was riding my bike. I still had a crutch attached to my bike, and the bike slipped out and I broke my foot. And it was all purple and black and blue. And I went home and all I did was sat with the memory, and I replayed it and rewrote it and replayed it and rewrote it and replayed it and rewrote it. And then I got myself into the doc, and the doc's like, oh my God, and x-rayed it and said, I don't get it. Your foot's not broken.
Exactly. I love that. I
And
love that.
we can do that. It's interesting. So I want to talk about where the Mandela effect came from, where the name came from, because this is actually quite common. Because
Yes.
I remember Mandela dying in prison.
Yes. A lot of people do. I remember that too. And he's not the first one that I remember dying and being alive again. I wrote about it in my book, Reality Shifts. Larry Hagman was the first person that was a celebrity that I remember. We don't have the Hagman effect. That would be he. The M-E would be the he. Like, wow, that's very funny. I like Nelson Mandela. But he's one of many at the time that happened, and he came back, and it was reported widely, popularized by Fiona Broome, but first I think reported on Coast to Coast with Art Bell. He was doing nighttime shows talking about Nelson Mandela, noticed being alive again. So he deserves some credit. Shout out to Art Bell. But these are just many of the great ones who passed away and come back. Jesus Christ, of course, I think should get credit for being one of the first, if not maybe the first, to roll the boulder aside and walk out of the tomb. So that's pretty cool. A lot of people witnessed that. And so what are we looking at here? This is something accessible to all of us at every level. It's showing us that if in one reality Nelson Mandela did die while incarcerated on Robbins Island, like you remember, like I remember, Fiona Broome remembered it, Art Bell remembered it, and now he went on to survive the ordeal of being jailed for so long. He came out, he became free, became president of South Africa. And so the South Africans feel like, what are you guys talking about? Because for a lot of them, they're in a very localized reality bubble, that thing we talked about earlier. So in that case, they don't notice that he, in particular, ever passed away while incarcerated. They don't remember that. And that's okay, because they're in a kind of a local bubble there.
What is that? You wrote about, I think it was in one of your books, you wrote about sand crabs, like dirt all of a sudden hitting sand crabs, and they go into a little sandball fight, not realizing, I'm calling that a localized reality bubble.
Yeah,
I don't know how what is a localized reality bubble, and what does it have to do with sand crabs and a sandball fight?
Okay. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I was visiting a tropical island in the Pacific Ocean with my family. I was a little girl, and for some reason, I was just meditating on the beach. I just love to sit and be just still. But I was observing these little sand crabs, and I just sit still. I loved watching nature, so I'd sit for, a long time for a child. So I'm just perfectly quiet observing. And that's I was noticing as I was quiet, the little crabs would come out of their holes, and they didn't seem to notice me at all. As long as I'm still, I was nothing to them, and they were paying attention to each other. And I saw occasionally one of them would sort of it'd use its claws and be scooping sand and get a big ball of sand. And I thought, what is it doing that for? And then occasionally it would just sort of raise it up and then fire it at another crab. It's like a snowball fight. I'm like, that's pretty funny. I didn't know crabs did this. And I'm just observing this. And I thought, that's so much fun. So I thought, I want to play with this snowball fight too. And so I made a little sand ball and flung it at a crab. And then it looked around. It kind of got up on its little claws and looked around with this little eyeballs. And it's like, who did that? Who did that? And it decides it doesn't look at me at all. I thought it would throw a sandball back at me. No, it still didn't see me. That's a big, huge sand fight started. So that's a localized reality where for some reason the crabs had no idea that I threw the first probably too big sandball. It was probably much bigger than what they're throwing. And that was interesting because it shows that if you're in a little bubble of reality, you can't see that there's someone outside your bubble. The human being doesn't factor in for those crabs. And obviously, if they're hit with a sandball, it must have been another crab that did it.
So can we going back to Nelson Mandela, going back to yourself on being on both sides of the veil, so to speak, at the same time, can we take that reality, sort of like I did with my foot, and put a process to it where we start to rewrite and maybe, I want to say, live at a higher existence because we're no longer, big words I'm throwing out, quantum entangled with a denser reality?
That's a good way to put it. Yes. So it's kind of, we have to let go of something to gain something because it is a growth process and there's an expansion involved and it is moving into a higher level of conscious agency, which we call high self. It's recognizing, okay, there's a level of me that seems to be pretty coordinated, seems to know what's going on. If I just relax, I can hear it and I know what I'm supposed to be doing, even though it makes no sense. But I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Then later, it makes sense later. Like, what an amazing synchronicity that I'm here. I don't know why I'm here, but I just felt like I needed to be here. So yes, so that those levels of conscious agency, that level of higher self, enables us, gives us the opportunity to release that drama that we were talking about earlier, that heavy stuff. If people are wondering what's the heavy stuff, that's the grief. It's when it's okay to be sad, but if you get stuck in it, and you keep carrying it, so you're like Pigpen with that dirty aura, well, then it's a bummer. So you don't want to be carrying that around. And if you're constantly afraid, like if you hear something and it scares you all the time, and then of course that's another kind of heaviness because you're being played like a pawn. Anyone who's that afraid of everything will be manipulated. Same thing if you're angry all the time, you can be manipulated. And then the whole thing of they comes in. Who are they? Well, all that heavy stuff can be let go of. As you access your higher self, you'll notice that none of that matters. It doesn't feel relevant to your life. It doesn't feel real. And but the exchange has to happen. You have to be willing to let go of all that emotional baggage. And you can sometimes feel like, you might think of a relative, for example. The last 3 years, there's been a lot of drama in families. So most of us have a family member that we think of them like, wow, too bad that happened with this pandemic, whatever it may be. And if you think about that drama, you can actually feel how you feel about that relative, the family member, and then notice that it's possible to drop the heavy feeling and only feel the love and the joy and the acceptance of their decisions, whatever they may be. I'm being very general here because I think this actually fits a lot of people right now. And it's and in that moment, as you make that exchange, like, I'm just, okay, I'm done feeling so heavy and heartbroken over whatever happened. I'll let that go. I'm just going to feel like they're doing the best they can. Bless them and bless me. And this is okay. And as you do that, there's a lightness of being, and absolutely you're connecting with that high self right there.
And I hear Hannah Bear giggling and laughing and playing as you're saying lightness of being. It doesn't come across maybe on everybody else's mic, but I know that you can hear that, the lightness of being going on behind us. So you experience this heaviness, you see this heaviness, you feel this heaviness. Is it simply that we shift a channel to get to that reality or that simultaneous universe that we desire, or are there some steps that we can take, or what's an easy way that we can start to, I'm going to call it surf the Mandela effect?
Yeah. Well, to do that, it depends on each person. Some people can clearly picture things in their head. Some people cannot picture anything. Some people are feelers. Some people are thinkers. It's like the Myers-Briggs personality types. There are so many personality types. And so mine is INFP. So it's, that means introverted, intuitive, feeling perceiver. Actually, I'm sort of I don't know why I said INFP. Usually I call myself an INFJ, but I have been on the border. It's funny I'm saying INFP. Maybe today because I think it's just tuning into all the sounds. So I'm perceiving. Usually I'm more the INFJ. But anyway, so it's hard for me to give something that's going to fit everybody because everybody is so unique. Just like food that we eat, everybody's diet is different. So I'm talking in generalities of that's why I brought up an example, because I think I'm going to go back to that example. So for each person listening, Maybe it's not a family member, maybe it's a friend, but for sure in the last 3 years, somebody has done something very differently than what you thought may have made sense. We know that. That's going to be like, of course. So just think of that person, and there's a little heartbreak involved, a little sadness. Like, why are they doing that? Why did they do that? And that's a perfect opportunity for you to notice. Are you seeing it in your, like, what kind of picture or image are you getting? You can develop your own process. And are you feeling it as an emotion? Are you remembering it as a memory? Is it something that feels real to you? And how does that feel real? So you want to first get a grip on that. Like, what is that? I'm putting my hand out so you can kind of feel it. If that works, you can put one hand out and feel like, okay, that's in my hand. How does that feel? You close your eyes, see if you can see it, get a sense of it. It feels to me heavy. It's like, that's a heavy thing. And then you picture, okay, in the other hand, let's picture, what does that feel like for us? Is there another higher level way to do this so that I don't carry that drama triangle baggage, whatever. Maybe I'm angry, maybe I'm sad, for me personally, however I take this. Might be a whole host of swirling emotions. But what's the alternative? What is the how good can it get? What is the how much better can it get than this? What does that feel like? And really start picturing that, feeling that. Yeah. That's uplifting. And then it's like, oh, let's go with that one. There may be a tug of war, and that happens with the Mandela effect. We have flip-flops. Like, I've seen Costco, the store, go to Costco without the T.
That one drives me mad.
Oh, you've seen it too? You've seen it too?
Oh, yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And some people say Chick-fil-A does that, all different kinds of spellings there. Crazy. Okay, but so if that's happening, just relax. That happens. And it's like, okay, I've got one in each hand and kind of playing with it. But at some point, you're ready to let that heavy thing go. And you don't need to carry that feeling of shaking that fist at that friend or family member, emotionally. Hopefully never in real life, but it may have happened too. But hopefully you want to get to that place where we're good. They're doing what they need to do. I'm doing what I need to do. It's all good. Doesn't need to be any conflict here. Because literally, I believe that we're all literally experiencing different realities, and their reality may be quite different than what you're going through. And getting to I love what you said. So as we find this process that works, can we start feeling that uplifting quality? Absolutely. And you can have perfect faith that everybody's right where they need to be, which sounds like it's some new age garbage, I know, but it's not, because of the subjective realities involved. Absolutely they are where they need to be.
So and I love the quote new age garbage. I'm a 1111 guy, meaning you're there exactly where you're supposed to be.
I know, I love that.
That's my world. But I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I'm thinking of Hitler. And forgive me, everyone. We all have our own subjective reality.
Yes.
Even he had his own subjective reality where things, yes. I am justifying nothing, anyone, where things made sense to him.
Yes. And hopefully he's grown and learned from his experiences.
Amen to that.
Yes.
But everyone, it means you can't. It takes put yourself in another people's shoes to a whole new level, because their reality is literally, and it is, we only take in a certain amount of information. I don't know if I buy the whole 8,000 bits thing, but we only take in, we have horse blinders on. Yes. And my horse blinders are different than your horse blinders. So I'm not going to see the same milk that you are. I'm not going to see the same flowers. I'm not going to duck the same thing that I need to duck.
That's right.
Which actually makes a richer existence, and it makes it an existence that's not based in a 3D reality, is it?
That makes it fun. It makes it the possibility for exploration, growth, learning, expansion, then become endless, where they would not be if we were all the same.
Yeah.
So instantly you've got the riches and the treasures of each and every one of us. And it's pretty magnificent. It's mind-blowing. Oh, and I wanted to say something about that you brought up. We've gone through so many amazing topics. When you talked about the old growth forest and those beautiful, beautiful, most I'm feeling it. I'm going to cry. I'm feeling that part of the forest that feels so ancient, so pure, so interconnected, so wise. And it's seen so much. We've got redwood trees here in the California where I live, and they are so, oh, oh,
I like to
oh,
sit inside of them. So,
yes.
and because you can sit inside of them, first off, that's my favorite place on earth to meditate is inside of a redwood, or just put my back against a redwood. Either way, you're hoovered. You feel your energy sucked upward in this swirling motion because it's thousands of tons of water a day that these things are pumping up to keep themselves alive and give everything around it life-bringing oxygen.
Yes, and water. I've got redwoods right
Yes.
here. We've got the fog, and they bring fog drip. I believe that the redwoods helped reverse our 1,000-year drought.
Well,
Um,
I lived in Maui for a few years, and actually it brings up a whole point that I want to go to about what we focus on in a minute. But you
yes.
could see, and a lot of Maui had been clear cut to give to the West, and we won't even go there. But on the upper forest that remained, and we lived on the side of Haleakala, the large volcano in Maui. What you saw is the forest kissed the sky. The forest would reach out to the clouds
Yes.
and draw the clouds to them and bring the rain. And there was a
Yes.
clear symbiotic relationship. Maybe it's electrical, who knows what it is.
Oh,
But
it's
it
so
was
much
very
more than
clear
that.
that, yes,
Yeah.
it's very clear that they brought the rain.
Thank you. And that's exactly what the redwoods do for California and for the West Coast. And we can work with them. I would show you some Qigong moves that I do with the redwoods to bring in the rain. But if I do it, we'll lose our connection. So I can't do it.
I was just looking up a new computer today because everything has been blowing up lately. Cancel, clear, release.
I will spare you this experience. But the reason I wanted to bring up the old growth forest is that's also the way to look forward for our future. Because when we look to where is humanity going, we can look to the wisdom traditions of the indigenous wisdom keepers of the earth, and they are the First Nations peoples. And they're not backwards at all. They understood that the water that we drink and the air that we breathe and the land that we walk on and the connections we have with all of the living species and the rocks and everything are, an integral part of our lives. So that way of seeing the world is still within us. We have not lost it, even though it may look like, where did it go? Why are we not respecting it? I think I think we are. I think, thank goodness, it does persist. It does exist. It's not completely lost. And that feeling of a local connection to your environment is something that we can restore. We don't need to lose it and become little automatons ourselves. I know we move around a lot as human beings. That's okay. But wherever we go, it's okay. Also, it's good to relate to the land, to feel that connection.
I say you are your land.
Yes.
You are a walking, talking expression of wherever you are. Period. Done deal. I remember being in New York City. I saw a raptor or something go up into a tree, and I don't remember if it was a hawk, a falcon, or what. And I'm like, oh. And a guy walked by with his briefcase and his tight suit, and he's all tight, and he looks up as I go, oh, and he goes, nature. I don't do nature. And my heart went out to him because
oh my gosh.
we are. Every single cell in our being is nature. Every single cell of our being is stardust. Every single cell came from Mama Earth. What you're talking about with the indigenous
Yes.
wisdom, if we call it indigenous wisdom, just because of the crazy biases in this world today, people may poo-poo it, which is just, it's the reverse. I say that when I have an indigenous wisdom keeper on the show, it's the only time I fan swoon.
See? Exactly.
It's a higher level technology. We can call it an ancient technology. You can call it an ancient wisdom that didn't even start on this planet when you actually dig down into it. It is such a higher level technology that anything that we are designing, even in the most sophisticated lab here on Earth.
Yes. And that's the level of respect that we need to continue to honor that, because that to me is part of our future. It has to be. The old growth human needs to be part of our future forest of the grand we are the champions of the cosmos.
Woohoo! Okay, here's just a funny question from a guest who was one of my first guests on the show, and I was Googling him today, and I hope he's still around. I don't know. Maybe you do, because I'm like, I would love to have him back. What in the world is Fred Alan Wolf's quiff?
Okay. He talks about popping the quantum wave function. And so popping the quiff. So a quantum wave function is that thing we were talking about.
And that's not a blue pill.
No, no, it's not. No pill popping involved. And for people that don't know, that's Dr. Quantum. Fred Alan Wolf is Dr. Quantum. And there are some great videos on YouTube. Wonderful movie that he's in, which is really fantastic. And What the Bleep Do We Know?
Yeah.
Definitely everybody should watch that. So a quiff is that quantum wave function. So it's the thing is it a particle? Is it a wave? And it gets us to that question with Schrodinger's cat and with the double slit experiment, noticing sometimes quantum particles like a photon behaves like a little paintball splat particle. And other times it acts like it's spread over all possibility and it's just smeared. Like when we're considering two realities and we're feeling them both and we're in that thought process, we haven't made a choice yet, but they're both possible, then we're entertaining that feeling. So I think Fred's doing. Oh, I just got an email from him, I think yesterday. He seems to be doing well, so maybe you could ask him to get back on the show.
May have to have him back on the show. He was guest 2 or 3 out of all of my recordings, which is way over 2,000 if we include the live shows. We're 2,700 now, and he was like 2 or maybe 3, along with he was 1 or 2. Him and Robert Mirabal, an indigenous wisdom keeper who's also a double Grammy Award-winning musician from the Taos Pueblo, who has been on a mission to want to talk about ancient technology, heritage seed here on Earth.
Thank God. Oh, I've got goosebumps. And I just love hearing about that because this is such important work. I know Leroy Littlebear, who was running the Language of Spirit conferences, and he's helping to. He would never say he's the only one doing it, but thanks to him, I say, he's making sure that the buffalo are making such a big comeback in Canada, the United States, across, that whole, all these borders, which otherwise can get very political. So thanks to his efforts, these are big things that are happening. And thank God for what they're doing. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. These are our heroes. I'm so glad that you sing their praises on your show. So,
and I'm going to bring it, and then we'll start to wrap things up here, but I'm going to bring it internally. While I am certainly, like I said, fan-swooning indigenous wisdom, it's within each and every one of us. Yes. It's that old growth forest in your heart, It ain't lost. You can access it. Heck, go sit by your redwood. Go sit by whatever you've got. Yes. So even if it's a plot of dirt that's a 2x2 with a little tree coming out of it that's being, held together with wires because it's on the side of the road and people are going to look at you funny. I've done this. It's funny you mentioned New York. When I was in New York a few years ago, I was walking in February, cold of winter, but I'm a California girl, but somehow I like the cold. And so my coat, I was wearing a dress and I had my coat open, unbuttoned, and people were frowning at me. And I'm just grinning like, cold air. And I'm like, why are people frowning? New Yorkers are funny. Hannah Bear, she will take, when we lived in Jersey for the first 6 months of her life, and we took her out when it snowed, she would take put her hands in snow and want to feel this stuff. She is not going, this stuff is cold, I shouldn't be touching it. She's going, this is cool. Yeah. Nobody labeled it for her. Exactly. And we can have that beginner mind. We can access nature in New York by just feeling the air, the cold air. That's what was giving me such delight. Like, this feels great. I love it. I'm a person of, Jessica would say, extremes. I'm not like an extreme athlete, although I guess by many labels I would be. But we're in Florida, so when we were in Colorado, I'd be running around in my shorts in the middle of winter, and running up small mountains, in my shorts, shirt off, just experiencing all of it. Here, it's like 98 degrees and 90 some odd % humidity, and it's a heat index of 125 plus degrees, and I'm out on my bicycle going, whoa! Awesome. You can love all of it. Yeah, just love where you are. Exactly. And feel it at whatever level works for you.
Yeah.
And it means, bringing it back to Mandela Effect, and I want to know where people can go to find out more, and you've got an event coming up.
Yes, we do. Thank
But
you.
it means we can use the Mandela Effect to literally rewrite in advance our experience. This is not an experience where I'm going to go out and I'm going to be hot and I'm going to be sweltering, or I'm going to be freezing and I'm going to be cold and I'm going to be turning blue. We can rewrite in advance how we desire that experience to be.
We absolutely can. And sometimes I like to keep it a little bit of excitement. That's how good can it get. So I'm not prescribing what it needs to be, what I think it needs to be. And it tends to be so much better than anything I could have invented anyway.
Well, here are my two of my favorite expressions. They need to be made into t-shirts. Rue, we've got another t-shirt coming with your name on it. We have like a t-shirt. It's only, we don't even have a place people can buy them now. So it's not like we've got all this swag going out. But he has a t-shirt that's a modified QA quote, which is every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. And it shows a proud picture of Rue. But I'm always saying, how does it get any better than this? And that means there's always a possibility that this is always fertile ground for something even better. But then I also, whenever I go into prayer, and I did it at the start of the show, for our highest good, for the highest good of all, or something even better. If you put the or something out there even better, I expect this experience to be magical for my highest good, the highest good of all, or something even better. Absolutely. Who knows what magical means? You don't need to know.
No, that's part of the joy and the fun of it. It's the journey. Yeah. So yes, exactly. International Mandela Effect Conference is the name of the organization, and you can find the website imec.world. And we also have a YouTube channel. We do live streams each month, but our big new events that were new because it's been 4 years since the last one. During the pandemic, we just did everything on the internet. But we'll be meeting in person in Branford, Connecticut over Labor Day weekend, September 2nd through the 4th. And you can find out more at imec.world. And yes, exactly. To answer your question, that Mandela effect and what we're doing with it, we do see that very much, that maybe the dodo bird can come back. We're watching the historical records are changing. It looks like it's getting closer and closer. It went extinct fewer and fewer years ago. It's coming into range. And so that's a very different way of bringing something back from extinction rather than, genetic tinkering, which people are doing that too, apparently. But you don't have to do it that way. You can actually bring things back. A lot of extinct species we've seen coming back, which is exactly as prophesized by the Hopi Indians and others. They said that this will happen. It is happening. And we track that. Yes.
You can literally Google that. You can Google that, and maybe that's on your website as well. You can see creatures, species, loving beings that have been extinct that have now. We don't know where they came from, but we found them.
The coelacanth fish. It's that huge fish. Yeah. And these giant Galapagos tortoises, the really big ones, back from extinction. And some little clams off the coast of California back after 30,000 years. Some are back after millions of years, some after tens of thousands of years. And each time it's kind of like, it's getting to the point where biologists now say, basically, if you build it, they will come. Well, they don't say that, but basically, that's what they're saying. Like, if you provide the environment, something that was gone even millions of years might return. They're not saying how, but we're saying absolutely it's happening. We track that at imec.world.
See, that goes back to, I don't remember if it was the time of the studies of Darwin, where you'd put two bottles next to each other. One had a creature in it, one didn't, and the energy would transfer from one to the other, and suddenly you would have one in the second one because of the energetic imprint between the two. And they wondered if that was how evolution took place a long time ago, is that transfer of information energetically. And probably the truth is, is if there's an energetic imprint of the creature, then the creature can appear again.
Wow, I love those studies. If you find something on that, I'd love to see more. That's the kind of science I support. Those are the good kind of questions, because those are leading us forward in a way that is most exciting, magical, and wonderful.
Now, it begets, I've got 2 or 3 last questions here. It begets the groupthink question. Can we mash well, actually, that brought up Hawaii, which I meant to mention. So this is going to bring the answer through the question, or bring the question through the answer. Forgive me. It's a fun day. This is really fun, Cynthia. When I lived on Maui, there were big storms that would head our way, and that would always veer off at the last moment. And on Maui, we all shared the same belief, the same group consciousness, that we live not just in a magical world. That's what Robert Mirabal said in the first or second show. I live in a magical world. We don't just live in a magical world, but in Hawaii, they would say it's a puka. It's a hole in the sky. You are in a puka, protected, safe environment because the elders and ancestors protecting you and keeping you safe. And everybody believed that. The ancestors and elders won't let anything happen to us. And I mean, this is a challenge time for the climate worldwide. But as people held that belief, it seemed to come true.
Yes.
And it seems like we can all use that power of belief now. So rather than watching this negative news machine, that's what I call the matrix, we can come up with our own inner matrix of what we do want to see, bring that into mass consciousness, and create that new reality.
Thank you. And the Hopi Indians, they have the word Tunatya and also Tunatiava. That means comes true, being hoped for. Very similar to the puka concept. And it's an awareness that, what you are hoping for, what you crave, what you need, what is going to be yours. It's that confidence of, it's not a neediness, as you know. It's a need that will be fulfilled. So it's not just that, it's not like a pipe dream kind of a hope, but it's really recognizing we need this, we hope for it. So it is happening. It is coming true.
And I'm going to put that out there for Mother Earth right now, that as we see this in this summer of incredible craziness and heat, that something really, really special can take place and will take place and will take place because of it.
Yes.
Which brings up the last just two questions, which the first one is, are you seeing now, you're tracking this, more Mandela effect now at this present time here in 2023 than ever? And the second part of that question is, can we test it?
Yeah. Well, the first part, I'd say yes, because, and based on the number of people that are now experiencing it, clearly we've hit, I think a majority of people are now definitely noticing that there's something that's changed. They may not want to look at it or dwell on it much, but they definitely are at least appreciating it. Also, in terms of the number of Mandela effects, we now have thousands of them. It's way more than just a dozen or a handful. It's pretty much any area that you want to look at, you can find there's a Mandela effect there for sure. And then the second part of the question.
Can we test it? Is there a way to test the Mandela effect? Other than going into ChatGPT and getting a collective knowledge that, hey, of the world.
Right. Well, there were some scientists that were looking into this, and they were operating at the University of Chicago. And so I think that's the closest I've seen to a scientific test of the Mandela effect. And what they noticed is that there are certain images that basically come through when people are asked, for example, to remember what is the logo for the Fruit of the Loom, which is a T-shirt and underwear company. People would consistently misremember. I know this. I don't think of it as misremembering. I think they're remembering correctly what they did remember.
I actually went to their corporate headquarters decades ago in like Greensboro, South Carolina or something, and it had a cornucopia.
What?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that one's yeah.
Yeah,
and now
exactly.
the logo, it's gone.
It's gone. And so, but here's what the University of Chicago researchers are scientifically establishing, is that there's something significant that so many of us specifically remember, that cornucopia basket behind all the fruit. If people are wondering, what's a cornucopia? It looks like this little basket shape, like a horn of plenty kind of thing. And people, instead of remembering fruit on a plate or a platter, instead of remembering fruit, in sort of some other kind of basket, like, why do we all share the same exact mistaken memory? I'd call it mismatched. It's different than what the official history now shows. I don't think it's a mistake. I think we are remembering correctly. And so it's extremely significant. Two things. A number of people are definitely noticing this I'm just using this one example. And secondly, they're noticing it the same way. Instead of fruit on a plate, that makes more sense perhaps, but nobody remembers that. That's not something that people will spontaneously sketch when asked, please draw the logo. They have fruit, but they always tend to put it in that same basket with the same curve to the basket, exactly the same. They're not drawing it different directions, different sizes, different ways. And so it's extremely significant.
Picture, I think it's the Monopoly guy.
Yep.
So everybody, if you look at the face of the Monopoly guy, what do you see? You see a spectacle.
Yeah.
There's no spectacle in the end.
Looks like
Pokemon.
he's all dressed up with that top hat and he's got that monocle. Yeah.
Pokemon lost the color on his tail. All of these things.
Yeah, where's
What
the black
happened?
on the tail? Right. Right.
But they tested it.
Yes, they tested it. So this is where the future of the science will go. I think it's in the field of psychology because that's a place where because that's what we're working with. We're working with people's memories. And in terms of a repeatable laboratory experiment, I think that's the best we can do so far. Because we're not able to track these other realities that are now gone, usually without a trace. Occasionally, there might be some reality, so-called residue, which means you might see like a price sticker for the Haas avocado spelled Haas, or people might type something about Stouffer's stovetop stuffing.
God, that one blew my... No, I ate Stouffer's. I was a kid who cooked. I was a latch-top kid. I cooked my old food. I would not eat my sister's Kraft macaroni and cheese. I ate my Stouffer's stuffing.
Exactly. It's not Stouffer's anymore. I think it's Kraft or something.
All I needed to do was add water to this packet, watch it sink into the pot, and it was Stouffer's.
Yeah, it was totally Stouffer's. Yeah, it's not there anymore. So it's, I think the science is going to need to continue in the field of psychology, but I would love to see the physics experiments as well. To me, those are Mandela effect experiments, like the one that was done showing that two observers at the same place, same time, are witnessing to very different realities. So that's questioning the objectivity assumption that we have implicit within most of science. That has gone ever since the year 1900 when quantum physics came on the scene, but we have not let go of that assumption. We cling to it. We tend to think that the one objective truth is true for everyone. And I think that has to go. We have to let go of that. It's shocking. It's hard for us to proceed forward. How can we do that when we acknowledge people are living in different worlds? But they are. That is what's actually happening.
That would save a lot of relationships.
It would, right? Love it.
So last question I have, and this has been truly beautiful, Cynthia, which is any last words, any last thoughts, anything having to do with this beautiful burgeoning field at this time where it seems like Mandela effects are popping up everywhere?
Well, this can be like a hero's journey. So for those of you listening to this and thinking about it, maybe wherever you are in the journey, the hero's journey was the idea that Joseph Campbell talked about. And when you first set out, it can seem like you're kicked out sometimes, kicking and screaming. Like a lot of people feel like, this is not what I asked for. This is not what I want to experience. But enjoy it. Recognize this is a journey. You can come home again. There can be a full cycle here. Find friends along the way. See how good it can get. Find the companions that understand you and can share your worldview as you're exploring, as you're growing, and have fun with it. Because this can be a lot of fun. And together, when we're all asking these questions, how good can it get, or how God can I get, or how much better can it get than this? We're sharing this journey together in the most powerful, profound way, that we're really moving from isolated, disconnected beings to a much more collective sense of shared consciousness, collectively working together. That is what the Mandela effect is. Now we're manifesting for all of humanity, and we're this is going to be amazing. So,
how does it get any better than this? How does it get any better than this? Thank you so much, Cynthia. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, check out Reality Shifts, check out the Mandela Effect, check out everything that Cynthia Sue Larson has to offer, and check out your new reality today. And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo!
He is huge.
He is huge.
Oh, he's so beautiful. Yeah, he looks a little bit hot, but calm. I hope he's feeling better.
Yeah, he's feeling better. I'll say he's 100%. His crow was a little bit funny still this morning, but almost 100%. So I'll say he's 100% now. How's that?
That's perfect.
Wow. What a special, sacred, beautiful. I had no idea this was going to be such a beautiful interview with Cynthia Sue Larson on the Mandela Effect. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. and as much as Rue did as well. To get a daily attunement and raise your vibration up, way up beyond the heaviness, simply go to dailywoohoo.com. That's daily, WOOHOO.com, where I give you a daily attunement coming straight out of my automatic writing. Of course, you can go to automaticwriting.com and get your own dose of daily goodness. Become a mystic by joining on that button down below. That is by far the best place to start. And here's a link to the next amazing video. Here's a link to the next amazing video. Here's a link to the next amazing video. Actually, Rue is pointing to the next amazing video. Love you guys so much. Keep on shining bright. How does it get any better than this, Rue? How does it get any better than this? Love you.